This is an article that came out in Dallas News, October 26, 2018. Botham Jean's family sue City of Dallas former cop Amber Guyger for killing him. Now, I did a video on the John's family suing the City of Dallas, but it was not a lot of detail on Amber Guyger in that article, but it's a little more in this one. So they filed this suit this past Friday. The family of a 26-year-old accountant slain in his home by a Dallas police officer who said she mistook his apartment for hers filed suit Friday against the city and the cop who killed him. Amber Guyger was off duty but in uniform when she shot and killed Botham John on September 6th at Southside Flats, down the street from Dallas Police Headquarters in the Cedar neighborhood. The federal lawsuit says Guyger used excessive force and violated John's constitutional and civil rights, and that Dallas Police Chief U. Renee Hall, the city council and city manager failed to implement and enforce such policy practices and procedures for the DPD that respected John's constitutional rights. Guyger, 30, was charged with manslaughter, which we know is the inappropriate charge, 3 days after John's death. She was later fired from the Dallas Police Department. Interim City Attorney Chris Caso said Friday evening that only he was aware of the lawsuit and had no comment. Guyger's attorney in the criminal case, Robert Rogers, also declined to comment. He has previously said Guyger is completely devastated by what happened and described the shooting as a tragic mistake. Yeah, but you know what? The media, the Dallas police, the Texas Rangers, all of y'all are protecting Guyger. You notice they won't tell you her whereabouts. They're all protecting her. All of them are in on it. The media too. Although Guyger wasn't on the clock at the time of the shooting, a court could find the city liable if she used her authority as a police officer when she shot John. But the city will certainly argue Guyger acted as a startled resident returning to what she thought was her home, which nobody is buying. I don't give a damn if you are drunk out of your mind. You don't forget where you live. The lawsuit was filed by John's parents, Allison and Bertram John, who live on the Caribbean island of St. Lucia, and his sister, Alyssa Findley of New York. John grew up in St. Lucia, but came to the U.S. for college at Harding University in Arkansas, and then found a job as an accountant at Price Waterhouse Coopers in Dallas. He planned to one day return home, where his mother is a former government official, to run for prime minister. The lawsuit will most likely be put on hold until the criminal charge against Guyger winds its way through criminal court. A grand jury would indict her for manslaughter, murder, or another charge. It would also decide she should not be charged with a crime. And see, that's what they're hoping for. They don't want her charged with anything. call it was just a tragic accident, like they're trying to say in this article, a tragic mistake, and let her go. You can see they're trying to set the stage for it already. And keep your eye on this grand jury that they pick. Now, Dallas is very black. There's a lot of black people that live in Dallas, but we know how they're very specialized in picking primarily predominantly white juries. Last week, Allison and Bertram John flew to Dallas and met with District Attorney Faith Johnson. Boy, that just gives me a headache just thinking about that. The Johns have been upset with how Dallas police and the Texas Rangers have handled the case, but said they are comforted and satisfied with how prosecutors are handling the case. Shoot first. The couple's lawsuit argues that better training, see, that's where everybody gets it wrong. These cops don't need training. They don't need training. They come to those jobs, even at the police academy level, they go there already filled with many biases, especially towards the Black community. So, no, you can't train that out of a person. All right. So, when it comes down to us, I know what they're saying, but here it says by simply following proper police procedures, but they never follow procedures when handling the Black community. When they are handling their own people, they follow everything to the letter. But when they're dealing with us, everything goes out the window. We have seen this over and over and over and over again. They do the same thing that they did during the slave catcher days. Okay? When they deal with us, it's anything goes. In fact, the slave catching days are still here because they handle us different from everybody else. And we have witnessed this, and there's countless videos that show you how if they are handling a Black suspect that's unarmed and they end up dead, and you can have a white suspect shooting directly at the cops and they get taken in alive. We've seen it way too many times. Okay, for anybody to come and try to argue this. We've seen it way too many times. Okay, but it is not police protocol that needs to be corrected. What they got to do, and we know they're never going to do this, they need to do a clean sweep of these police departments and start all over from scratch. If you are going to just give some lame ass training and you got the same cops with the same bias mindset, it's not going to accomplish anything. You're going to, in fact, you're never going to leave square one. Okay. Defendant Guyger would have not shot Jean, the lawsuit states. So they're saying if she would have followed procedure, she wouldn't have shot him. But we see that did not happen. They don't follow procedures with us. Essentially, Officer Guyger was ill-trained and as a result defaulted to the defective DPD policy to use deadly force even when there's so even when there's no immediate threat, she went to the most deadly form of force. But I'm telling y'all, things did not happen the way Amber Guyger said. She did not shoot this man from across the room. He did what most people would do if somebody came and knocked at your door. You come, you knock on somebody's door, that person gets up or stops whatever they're doing, and they come and answer the door. And that is exactly what happened in this case. She shot him at close range. This is why they will not release that toxicology report on Amber Guyger, and they will not release his autopsy report because it's going to show you something entirely different from what Amber Guyger said happened that night, and they know it. And for the family's sake, I hope they got a private autopsy done and not depend on the city of Dallas, because as you can see, they're all in cahoots with each other. Dallas police have a pattern, practice, history, and custom of using excessive force against minorities, including approaching them with guns drawn, according to the suit. The lawsuit says the department has said it would change its policy over the years, but failed to do so. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. When they approach Black people, they always come with their guns drawn, even when it's uncalled for. And they have a policy of doing this for years. That's why I'm saying you can't train this out of people. The chief and the city council failed to implement the necessary policies, and the de facto implementation of unconstitutional policies caused John to experience an unwarranted and excruciating physical and mental anguish before his ultimate death. For these civil rights violations and other causes action discussed herein, plaintiffs seek answers and compensation for their respective damages. Oh, they're going to be paid nicely. There's no way around that. The lawsuit does not ask for a specific dollar amount. They really don't have to worry about that yet because the criminal case has not happened. So really, they can put that in after the criminal case is done. That's really nothing they have to do right now. The Johns want their lawsuit to bring about change in how police officers are trained, said Attorney Lee Merritt, who represents John's family, along with Darrell Washington and Benjamin Crump. They want accountability, Merritt said. Part of the goal of civil lawsuits is for the monetary damages to make the defendant take steps to prevent this in the future. Merritt said the Johns aren't holding themselves as experts to say what that training should be, but he said, a man sitting in his home should not be killed. I agree with that. The lawsuit raises questions about why Guyger didn't notice she was on the wrong floor and in the wrong apartment. And I agree with that. This officer has a serious accountability problem. And they said even her first shooting, I think what was 4 years ago, the first time she shot somebody, even that was questionable. John lived on the 4th floor and Guyger lived below him. John had a red mat in front of his door. Guyger did not. Guyger told law enforcement that John's door was unlocked and ajar. And as you could see, those doors, you can't prop those doors open. You would have to put an object and wedge it in between the door in order for it to stay open. John's family has said he would have locked and shut his door. So he was not known for keeping his door unlocked. And that's really the norm for most people. Most people are not known for keeping their door propped. Nobody does that. The officer also failed to notice the lawsuit says that her key did not chime as it would have if she inserted it into the electronic door. Exactly. Okay, again, I used to activate and deactivate key fobs. I know exactly how they work. Okay, when she put her key fob in that door, she would have gotten some type of signal that it failed. She would have got some kind of signal that it failed. And when she went to turn the knob, it would not work. Plain and simple. Okay, the door would not have produced the identical chime defendant Guyger hears daily at her apartment, which would indicate to a reasonable cop, that's right, that she had entered her key into the wrong keyhole, if that is indeed what happened, the suit says. In fact, the light above, there is always a light above the door where you insert the key fob, and it will turn green if it's the correct key fob to get through that door. It will turn red if it fails. And you'll even see this on hotel room doors. If you swipe that card, which is similar to a key fob, because you have to activate and deactivate the card. So if you swipe your card, it should turn green. You should see the light on the door, the indicator light, turn green. If you swipe it and it turns red, then you know it didn't work. It's the same thing, same concept as you see in hotel room doors. Okay, let me get back to this. In fact, the light above the keyhole would have flashed red, exactly, indicating to defendant Guyger that her key did not match the lock she was then attempting to access. Guyger arrived at John's door around 10 p.m. as John sat on his couch. That's right, because all of the reports indicated that he was sitting on his couch. He was in the dark, but on his computer. Okay. A lot of people do that at night. He's one of many. The lights were out except for the football game he was watching on TV. The lawsuit says light from the hallway and television should have provided enough light for Guyger to see she was in the wrong place. First of all, they said the fourth floor of the parking garage had no roof. That alone should have told her she was on the wrong floor. If you're on the third floor, you would have a roof above you in that parking garage. If you're on the fourth, you would not have had that. That alone should have told her something was wrong. Not unless there was some drugs in her system. And that's why they're trying to hold back on that toxicology report. Because either she's lying, which I think she's doing both, or she had some kind of drug in her system. So she's doing a bunch of lying and acting like somebody on drugs. I don't know where I live. Okay. After opening the door to John's apartment, defendant Guyger stated that in an interview with the Texas Ranger that she drew her service weapon and began issuing verbal commands to John, who was lawfully in his apartment, the lawsuit says. Now, according to those neighbors, she opened fire on him immediately. They said they heard no commands. They didn't hear any commands from her. They said all they heard was that door open, and then next they heard the gunshots. They heard no commands. Okay. John attempted to comply, but slowly arising from his seated position without any lawful justification to do so, and not asking the question that a reasonable, well-trained officer would have. Defendant Guyger fired upon John, striking him in the chest, although he was unarmed and not attempting to harm her or any other person. The lawsuit says Guyger could have shut the door and called the police for backup while she waited outside the apartment, or use less deadly tactics. After Guyger shot John in the chest, the lawsuit says she did not give John first aid. Exactly. She called her partner, which again, if she was on that police force for 4 years, she did not know after a shooting you call the EMT. She didn't know this, huh? After you shot somebody, you don't call first aid, and she's a cop for 4 years. So she don't know what protocol is. She don't know where she lives. She don't know what she's doing. She just don't know nothing, huh? She just went blank that whole night. The police have said she did try to help him. She called her partner first instead of 911. The lawsuit said the department did not treat Guyger like any other citizen. The shooting was initially investigated by Dallas police as officer-involved shooting. And as you heard on that scanner audio that I posted, they were protecting her from the instant it happened. They did nothing but protect her from the start all the way up until now. And like I said, the media is also aiding them because they won't even tell you where Amber Guyger is. They're all protecting her, but they're telling you she's being treated like any other citizen, and they're lying and they know it. She was, the lawsuit says, not immediately arrested and allowed to roam about the crime scene, make phone calls, and allowed to re-enter John's apartment and go to her own home. Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the right thing for the family to do. I'm glad they did it. And I hope they get the justice they're looking for, but we know how scarce justice is for Black people in this system. They will do everything they can to make sure no one goes to jail when they kill one of us. But when one of them are killed by the police, they make sure that justice is swift and something is done. And we saw that in the case of the 2 Black officers that killed a little white boy. They're serving 40 years in jail. You know, their father, that little boy's father, tried to flee. Okay? He did the same thing they claim Black people do. And those police officers were placed in jail for 40 years. But somebody can jump out of a car and kill Tamir Rice within 2 seconds, and that officer is free. There's so many injustices done to the Black community. I've lost count. Too many to list. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and please show your support by giving a donation through PayPal or becoming a patron of this channel. Peace, family.